The story begins at a children's home, where a young woman leaves her baby boy on the doorstep because she believes she can't give him the life he deserves. That little boy's name is Lewis. The children's home director, Mildred, takes him in and raises him with care. Fast forward 12 years later, Lewis has grown into a brilliant young inventor. Ever since he was a kid, he's loved creating new gadgets and experimenting with ideas. Because of that, he spends nearly every waking moment building inventions. Unfortunately, his roommate Michael isn't too happy about it. Lewis affectionately calls him Goob. Since they share the same room, Goob constantly loses sleep because of Lewis's late-night experiments. As a result, he keeps falling asleep during baseball games, causing his team to lose match after match. But Lewis barely notices. He's focused on something much more important. A family is coming to meet him for adoption. Hoping to impress them, Lewis spends days building a peanut butter machine. Just then, Mildred arrives and tells him that the family has finally arrived. Excited, Lewis greets the Harrington family and starts sharing all of his creative ideas. The family seems impressed. They ask him what he enjoys doing most. Lewis proudly explains that inventing is his passion. Wanting to show off his talent, he demonstrates one of his gadgets. Unfortunately, the machine malfunctions and sprays peanut butter everywhere. The Harringtons immediately panic and run away because Mr. Harrington is severely allergic to peanuts. Another adoption opportunity is ruined. Heartbroken, Lewis heads up to the rooftop alone. Mildred joins him and tries to cheer him up. She reminds him not to lose hope because someday the right family will come along. But Lewis sadly explains that 124 families have already rejected him, and next year he'll be 13 years old. At that age, getting adopted becomes even harder. He starts believing that maybe his own mother didn't want him either. Mildred gently disagrees. She tells him that maybe his mother left him there because she wanted him to have a better future. Those words stay with Lewis. For the first time, he realizes that his mother may have loved him more than anyone else ever could. That's when he gets an idea. If he can find his mother, maybe he'll finally understand why she left him. After noticing a poster nearby, inspiration strikes. Lewis decides to build a machine that can access old memories. If it works, he could look back into his earliest memories and finally see his mother's face. Determined to make it happen, he throws himself into the project. Day and night, he works on what he calls the memory scanner. Many of his experiments fail, but every failure teaches him something new. He studies everything he can about the human brain and memory. Even his science teacher helps him perfect the invention so he can present it at the upcoming science fair. After weeks of hard work, Lewis finally completes the memory scanner. Excited and nervous, he takes it to the school science fair. The event is filled with students showing off their invention. Soon the judge arrives. Her name is Dr. Lucille Krunkelhorn. She begins examining each project one by one. Unfortunately, most of them are pretty unimpressive. Lewis eventually arrives with his memory scanner, but before he can present it, something unbelievable happens. A strange boy suddenly appears from inside the machine. His name is Wilbur Robinson, and according to him, he's from the future. Wilbur quickly explains that he's a special agent searching for a mysterious man in a black bowler hat. The thief has stolen a time machine, and Wilbur needs to catch him before it's too late. Before running off, Wilbur warns Lewis to keep a close eye on the memory scanner, but Lewis has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. To him, Wilbur sounds completely crazy. A moment later, Wilbur spots someone he believes might be the thief and immediately takes off after him. However, it turns out to be nothing more than another student carrying a solar system project. During the confusion, a girl named Franny drops her frogs, and Wilbur helps her gather them. Meanwhile, the real thief makes his move. The man in the black bowler hat secretly sends his robotic hat Doris to sabotage Lewis's invention. Doris loosens several screws inside the memory scanner, making sure it won't function properly. A few moments later, Dr. Krunkelhorn arrives to evaluate Lewis's project. Lewis confidently explains that his machine can help people revisit old memories. Then he powers it on for a demonstration. But because Doris tampered with it, the machine immediately falls apart. The malfunction sends pieces flying everywhere and damages several other students' projects. The entire science fair turns into chaos. Lewis watches in horror as weeks of hard work are destroyed in seconds. Completely devastated, he runs away. Wilbur follows after him. Meanwhile, the man in the black bowler hat steals the broken memory scanner and escapes into the future. He plans to profit from Lewis's invention. Lewis is crushed. Everything he worked for is gone. His dream of finding his mother seems impossible now. A few moments later, Wilbur catches up to him and tries to explain what really happened. He tells Lewis that the memory scanner wasn't his fault. Someone sabotaged it, and the same thief also stole Wilbur's time machine. Now the criminal is traveling through both the past and the future, but Lewis refuses to believe any of it. He assumes Wilbur is completely insane and starts walking away. That's when Wilbur decides to prove he's telling the truth. He reveals an actual time machine, and the moment Lewis sees it, he's completely speechless. Wilbur then takes Lewis to the future. The moment Lewis sees the future, he's amazed. Flying vehicles, incredible inventions, and futuristic buildings things are everywhere. For the first time in his life, he feels like he's seeing the world he truly belongs in. A few moments later, Wilbur reminds him that they still have a problem. Lewis needs to repair the memory scanner, but Lewis isn't interested in fixing the machine anymore. Now that he has access to a time machine, he believes he can simply travel back and meet his mother. Excited by the idea, Lewis starts operating the time machine himself. Unfortunately, he accidentally breaks the control lever. The machine immediately loses control and crashes into the ground. Wilbur is furious. He tells Lewis that because of him, the time machine is now damaged too. Now Lewis has to repair it. Lewis agrees, but only on one condition. If he fixes the time machine, Wilbur must help him find his mother so he can stop her from leaving him at the children's home. After some hesitation, Wilbur agrees. Meanwhile, the man in the black bowler hat tries to sell the stolen memory scanner to a powerful company's CEO. Unfortunately, he has no idea how the machine works. The demonstration goes horribly wrong, and the machine breaks apart. The CEO immediately throws him out. Frustrated, the bowler hat man decides that before he can profit from the invention, he needs to find Lewis and learn everything about the machine. Back in the future, Wilbur brings Lewis to the Robinson family's garage. The garage is packed with advanced tools and inventions. Lewis immediately realizes this is the perfect place to repair the time machine. However, he explains that he'll need the original blueprints first. Without them, fixing the machine will be nearly impossible. Just then, one of Wilbur's robots asks if they've recovered the stolen time machine yet and how it got damaged in the first place. Wilbur quickly assures the robot that everything will be fixed before his dad gets home. The robot suddenly notices Lewis and immediately panics. Terrified, it runs away. To avoid attracting attention, Wilbur gives Lewis a strange fruit hat to wear. That way, nobody will notice his unusual hairstyle and realize he's from the past. Wilbur then heads through a tunnel system to retrieve the blueprints. Left alone in the garage, he decides to follow Wilbur, but instead of finding the correct tunnel, he accidentally ends up somewhere completely different. He arrives at the home of an octopus-like relative named Lefty. Seeing the giant octopus surprises Lewis so much that he immediately runs away. Meanwhile, the robot warns Wilbur that he may have made a huge mistake. If the man in the black bowler hat changes the future, everything could be destroyed. Wilbur tries to stay optimistic. He explains that Lewis will repair the time machine, return to the past, fix the memory scanner, and restore the timeline. But the robot isn't convinced. If your plan fails, it warns, you might never even be born. That thought terrifies Wilbur. He quickly grabs the blueprints and rushes back toward the garage. At the same time, Lewis accidentally bumps into Wilbur's grandfather. Grandpa Robinson is an eccentric inventor who constantly wears his clothes backward. He's currently searching for his missing false teeth. In fact, he's dug dozens of holes trying to find them. Lewis politely explains that he's trying to get back to the garage. Wanting to help, Grandpa Robinson offers to show him a shortcut. Unfortunately, his shortcuts aren't exactly reliable. Instead of reaching the garage, they end up at Aunt Billy's house. She's busy preparing a toy train for an upcoming race so her husband Gaston can compete. Meanwhile, Wilbur finally returns to the garage with the blueprints, but when he arrives, Lewis is nowhere to be found. Panicked, Wilbur starts searching for him all over the property. As for Lewis and Grandpa Robinson, they continue wandering through the Robinson family's massive estate. While looking for the garage, Lewis ends up meeting more and more members of Wilbur's family. Eventually, he meets Wilbur's mom, Franny. She's teaching a group of frogs how to perform music. Lewis is amazed. Franny welcomes him warmly and even teaches him how to play the maracas. Soon, the rest of the family joins in, turning the whole thing into a giant musical celebration. For the first time in a long time, Lewis is genuinely having fun, but eventually he decides he should keep looking for the garage. As he runs off, he accidentally crashes into Wilbur. That's when Wilbur realizes Lewis has already met nearly his entire family. Quickly, he drags Lewis back to the garage. Once they're alone, Wilbur starts asking questions. What did you learn about my family? Did anyone suspect you're from the past? Lewis smiles and tells him not to worry. He's met almost everyone, and nobody has figured out who he really is. Meanwhile, back in the past, the man in the black bowler hat and Doris arrive at the children's home while searching for Lewis. There, they find Goob. He's miserable after letting his baseball team down and getting blamed by everyone around him. Taking advantage of his frustration, the bowler hat man fills his head with negativity. He tells Goob that people are selfish and that he should hate everyone. Afterward, the bowler hat man and Doris search the children's home rooftop for Lewis. Eventually, they discover the truth. Lewis isn't in the present anymore, he's in the future. Realizing this, they immediately travel forward in time to find him. Meanwhile, back in the future, Lewis continues working on the time machine. Lewis asks Wilbur, "What happens if I can't fix it?" Wilbur immediately replies, "Keep moving forward." According to him, that's his dad's motto. Curious, Lewis asks what that means. Wilbur explains that his father runs Robinson Industries, the most successful scientific research company in the world. People everywhere admire his inventions, but none of that success came easily. Wilbur shows Lewis countless failed inventions created by his dad over the years. Many of them never worked. Others exploded, broke down, or completely failed. But instead of giving up, his dad kept learning from every mistake. Eventually, all that hard work led to incredible breakthroughs, including the invention of time travel. Wilbur tells Louis that failure isn't the end, it's just another step toward success. Inspired by those words, Louis gets back to work. Using the blueprints, he successfully repairs the damaged time machine. Both boys are thrilled. They immediately power it up to test it. But a few seconds later, smoke starts pouring out of the machine. Something is still wrong. Louis becomes frustrated and starts blaming himself. Before they can continue working, Franny calls everyone to dinner, but they know Franny might come looking for them if they don't show up. So they reluctantly head inside. Meanwhile, the man in the black bowler hat and Doris arrive in the future. Doris gives him a smaller control hat, allowing him to continue controlling animals and creatures from a distance. Together, they begin searching for Louis. At the Robinson house, the entire family is enjoying dinner. As usual, the meal is anything but normal. Everyone is talking and creating chaos. Franny becomes curious about Louis and starts asking questions about him. Before Louis can answer, Wilbur quickly jumps in. He's just a friend. Louis then starts talking about his hometown. The family becomes interested and wants to know more about his parents. Realizing the conversation is getting dangerous, Wilbur cleverly distracts everyone by starting an argument between Uncle Gaston and his mom. Just then, one of the robots arrives carrying fresh bread. Unfortunately, the family's peanut butter machine suddenly stops working. Everyone is disappointed. Seeing an opportunity, Wilbur proudly announces that Louis is an amazing inventor. He insists that Louis can fix it. Not wanting to disappoint everyone, Louis agrees. He examines the machine and quickly gets to work. Meanwhile, the bowler hat man tries using his control hat on one of Franny's frogs to capture Louis. Unfortunately for him, frogs have tiny arms and aren't exactly great at kidnapping people. His plan fails immediately. Frustrated, he decides to find something much bigger. A few moments later, he returns with a dinosaur. Back inside, Louis successfully repairs the peanut butter machine. Unfortunately, another small mistake causes peanut butter to spray all over everyone's clothes. Louis immediately apologizes, but instead of getting upset, the Robinson family cheers. To them, mistakes are part of learning. They believe that giving up is the only real failure. If you quit every time something goes wrong, you'll never accomplish anything. Just then, the dinosaur suddenly crashes into the house and grabs Louis. Everyone immediately springs into action. Using their strange inventions and gadgets, the Robinson family tries to rescue him, but the dinosaur smashes through everything in its path. Several inventions are destroyed, and even one of the family's flying vehicles gets wrecked. Louis manages to break free and hides in a corner. Luckily, the dinosaur can't grab him because its tiny arms are too short. Wilbur quickly pulls Louis away and starts running. That's when he notices something important. The dinosaur isn't acting on its own. The man in the black bowler hat is controlling it with the special hat. Working together, Louis and Wilbur manage to knock the control hat off the dinosaur's head. The dinosaur immediately returns to normal. At the same time, Franny's frogs capture the small control hat and lock it away. The bowler hat man's entire plan falls apart once again. Furious, he watches everything unravel before his eyes. A little later, Franny and the rest of the Robinson family gather around Louis. They tell him he's a wonderful kid. Wilbur has already told them that Louis is an orphan, and after spending time with him, they all agree on one thing. They want to adopt him. Everyone is excited. For the first time in his life, Louis finally feels wanted. But then, something unexpected happens. Wilbur accidentally knocks off Louis's fruit hat. The moment everyone sees his hairstyle, they realize the truth. Louis is from the past. Franny immediately says that Louis must be returned to his own time. But Wilbur explains the problem. One time machine is broken, and the other was stolen by the man in the black bowler hat. At the moment, there's no way to send Louis home. Louis then reminds everyone about the promise Wilbur made. Before returning to the children's home, he wants to meet his mother. The entire family turns toward Wilbur. They're not happy. Wilbur finally admits the truth. He never intended to help Louis change the past. He only said it to convince him to fix the time machine. Hearing this completely breaks Louis's trust. Angry and hurt, he storms off. Sitting alone, Louis begins to cry. That's when he hears a familiar voice. The man in the black bowler hat steps out of the shadows. He tells Louis that he can help him find his mother. But first, Louis has to repair the memory scanner. Desperate for answers, Louis agrees. Just then, Wilbur arrives and tries to stop him. He warns Louis not to trust the bowler hat man, but Louis refuses to listen. Feeling betrayed by Wilbur, he chooses to leave with the mysterious stranger instead. Louis eventually repairs the broken memory scanner and even teaches the man in the black bowler hat how to use it properly. But the moment the job is finished, the bowler hat man turns on him. Instead of honoring their deal, he captures Louis. Confused, Lewis reminds him that they had an agreement. That's when the bowler hat man finally reveals the truth. He tells Lewis something shocking. "You know Wilbur's dad? That's you." Lewis is completely stunned. The bowler hat man explains that Lewis grows up to become one of the greatest inventors in history. Then he shows Lewis an image of his old room at the children's home, and suddenly, everything clicks. The bowler hat man isn't a stranger at all. He's Goob, the same Goob who shared a room with Lewis back at the children's home. Goob explains that because Lewis stayed up all night working on inventions, he could never get enough sleep. As a result, he fell asleep during the biggest baseball game of his life and missed the final catch. His teammates blamed him. Nobody wanted to be around him, and eventually no family ever adopted him. Years later, the children's home itself shut down, leaving him completely alone. Over time, Goob convinced himself that Lewis was responsible for everything that went wrong in his life. That's why he dedicated himself to getting revenge. Goob then explains what happened next. One day, he went to Robinson Industries hoping to settle the score. Instead, he discovered Doris, the robotic helping hat that Lewis would someday invent. Originally, Lewis created Doris to help people, but Doris became too intelligent. She wanted control. When Lewis realized how dangerous she had become, he shut her down and locked her away. But somehow, Doris escaped. Eventually, she found Goob. Together, they came up with a plan to steal the time machine and change history. Goob reveals that when he sneaked into the Robinson house, Wilbur accidentally left the garage door open. That mistake allowed him to steal the time machine. Now his plan is almost complete. He's going to return to the company, claim Lewis's inventions as his own, and change the future forever. Lewis warns him that altering the timeline could destroy everything, but Goob refuses to listen. He grabs the memory scanner and leaves. Just then, Wilbur arrives with one of the Robinson robots to rescue Lewis. The robot manages to free him, and together they escape with the memory scanner. They're only moments away from safety when Doris attacks. The robot is destroyed, and Goob escapes with the memory scanner, traveling back into the past. Wilbur desperately tells Lewis that they have to repair the time machine immediately. If they fail, their future will cease to exist. Meanwhile, Goob successfully sells the memory scanner, and almost instantly, the timeline begins to change. Wilbur starts fading away right before Lewis's eyes. Lewis rushes to repair the time machine, but when he looks around, he realizes it's already too late. The future has changed completely. In this new timeline, Goob became famous after selling Lewis's invention. He built an entire company based on Doris technology, but that was exactly what Doris wanted. The robotic hat had been manipulating everything from the beginning. Her goal was never to help humanity. She wanted to control it. Over time, Doris created millions of robotic hats and placed them on people all around the world. Even Goob himself has become nothing more than her puppet. Before Lewis can react, Doris appears. The entire future is now ruled by her. Even the Robinson family is being controlled. Forced against their will, they begin attacking Lewis. Luckily, Lewis manages to finish repairing the time machine just in time. He escapes and travels back to the past before the altered future can fully consume him. Back in the past, Lewis confronts Goob. He tells him the truth. Doris is using you. The moment she succeeds, she'll get rid of you too. At first, Goob refuses to believe him, but then Lewis shows him what the future becomes. A world where Goob loses everything. Realizing he's been manipulated all along, Goob finally understands. Furious, Doris attacks Lewis herself, but Lewis suddenly has an idea. He looks directly at her and says, "I'll never invent you." The moment those words leave his mouth, Doris begins disappearing. Since Lewis is the one who would create her in the future, his decision erases her existence entirely. Within seconds, Doris vanishes, and with her gone, the timeline starts repairing itself. The dark future disappears. The Robinson family returns to normal, and Wilbur finally reappears. Overjoyed to be back, Wilbur immediately charges toward Goob, but Lewis stops him. He explains that Goob isn't a villain. He's just a lonely kid who made some terrible choices. Lewis even asks if the Robinson family could adopt him, but when they turn around, Goob is already gone, quietly slipping away before anyone can stop him. For the first time, Lewis realizes that holding on to anger only creates more pain, and sometimes, the best thing you can do is keep moving forward. After saving the future, Lewis and Wilbur return to the Robinson house. Everyone is thrilled to see them safe. Franny and the rest of the Robinson family welcome them back with open arms. Then something incredible happens. Lewis finally meets his future self. The older Lewis is now a world-famous inventor whose creations have changed countless lives. Seeing everything he will one day accomplish leaves young Lewis completely amazed. Future Lewis shows him some of the incredible inventions and gadgets he created over the years. Everywhere Lewis looks, he sees proof that his dreams really can come true. Then future Lewis gives him one final piece of advice. Everything depends on you. The choices you make today will shape the future you have tomorrow. So never stop believing in yourself, and never give up. A little later, Wilbur uses the time machine one last time. Instead of taking Lewis back to the science fair, he takes him to the night his mother left him at the children's home. For years, Lewis had dreamed of this moment. He finally sees his mother, and for a second, he wants to run to her and stop her from leaving. But then he remembers everything he's learned, the Robinson family, his future, the life waiting for him ahead. If he changes this moment, all of it could disappear. So even though it's heartbreaking, Lewis chooses not to interfere. He quietly lets her go. Then he and Wilbur return to the present. Before leaving, Wilbur says goodbye to his future dad. And for the first time, Lewis feels at peace. Back at the science fair, Lewis remembers that Goob's baseball championship game is happening right now, so he rushes over and wakes Goob before he falls asleep. This time, when the game-winning ball comes his way, Goob catches it. His team wins the championship. Everyone cheers for him, and his future changes forever. After that, Lewis returns to the science fair and presents the repaired memory scanner. His teacher and Dr. Lucille are amazed. The machine works perfectly. It can actually display people's memories on a screen. The judges love the invention. Everyone is blown away by Lewis's creativity. Then Dr. Lucille's husband, Bud, arrives. After meeting Lewis and seeing how talented he is, they make a life-changing decision. They want to adopt him. Lewis can hardly believe it. At long last, he finally gets the family he's always wanted. Soon, Lewis moves into the Robinson home, where a bright future is waiting for him. Meanwhile, Goob is also adopted after his baseball victory. For the first time, both boys finally get the chance to be happy, and that's where this heartwarming story comes to an end. A story about family, friendship, second chances, and learning that failure isn't something to fear. Sometimes, every mistake you make is simply another step towards something amazing, because the future belongs to those who never stop moving forward. And that's the lesson of this story. Your mistakes don't define you, but what you do next does. So keep believing in yourself, keep chasing your dreams, and most importantly, keep moving forward.